Good morning, students. Today we talk about, you know, we continue rather with the Indus Valley civilization, and we have, as you see on the screen, we have done a great deal of urban life. Then importance of the concept of beauty. That is, we surely discussed in our last video where we were talking about the dancing girl and how important it was for the people of Indus Valley civilization to import the items which were not found within their own geographical boundaries, whether it meant getting it from Mesopotamia, whether it meant getting it from parts of Central Asia, but or even Afghanistan for that matter. So what ultimately mattered for them was, yes, they must have what they wanted when it came to the beautification of. Even men were very fond of ornaments, as the later studies and the archaeological finds have revealed. So the beauty was the concept of beauty rather was very important. Faith system, that is next. Now we have already covered the faith system. That is, we have no idea if there was a full fledged religion that had taken over, or different towns, whether Harappa or Mohenjo-daro or Kalibangan or Lothal or different urban centers were experimenting with their own belief systems, with different belief systems. That is also not very kind of different. That is also not very sure that because we have also studied that it was not very easy to understand these things because there isn't much text available, and neither have they gone into great lengths like the other contemporary ancient civilizations to really express their faith system and their, if you can call it, religious system in terms of their statues and in terms of the temples, and uh, we don't know much about it. Okay, we speculate. Now we have the bust of a priest. We think that he was a priest, and but we have no idea if the priests were very powerful or influential, and they had a great amount of clout within the society, like it was there in the other contemporary civilizations again. So the faith system is whether it was in the experimental state that they were evolving and they were behind the other contemporary civilizations when it meant to this, or it was very very intentional on their part to keep it that way and not get into a full-fledged religious hierarchy or the pantheon where you have particular god as on top and then someone after him and then someone after him, like that. So it could be intentional, or probably they could just be evolving, but then we do not know for sure. We can never be certain about it. Okay, now coming to the fourth point, that is the main towns. Now Mohenjo-daro, as we all know, it is a very, very important site of Indus Valley civilization. Okay, now we have also discussed that drainage system was a very impressive. Uh, the grid system of urban planning was also very important, and it was quite different to the other contemporary civilizations where they did not follow the grid pattern, but the people from Indus Valley civilization, they did follow the brick pattern. Uh, now, there's one thing which is when we talk about the great bath of Mohenjo-daro, I would like to tell you one. I would rather like to raise a point here. Now, a great bath, we normally have this impression that probably everyone was going there taking bath, and probably that's how they used to take bath. Like you have it in Turkish culture, whether you have it, and you also have it in Chinese culture, you have it in the Japanese culture. So We do not know actually whether it was meant. This was just the daily normal bath that all of us indulge in, and they liked taking bath um, in a very congregation sort of manner, or whether this was something which was more about um, the bath or the ritual bath, which is known as ablution. Mind you, not abolition but ablution. It's ABLU, yes. uh, where you take bath uh, before your prayers, whether you enter before you enter temple, whether this was more about the ceremonial washing of the parts of body before you start praying, and that's what this bath was meant for. We are again not sure, because uh, great bath, it does give an impression that if we are talking about 200 people taking bath together, could be, could not be. Okay. Now, yes, but there is one very interesting thing about Mohenjo-daro, that uh, there were that the sculptures that have been found there, the sculptures that have been found there from the areas around Mohenjo-daro, many of them are broken ones. Now, if again, when we talk about how the civilization vanished, that some the river changed its course, or probably there was an earthquake, and things like that, and but the problem is, it does, a lot of sites do give an impression as if the whole thing saw a very violent end, as if um, the things were broken very, very deliberately. It is not that the ravages of time did that to them. Okay. Now, uh, now let's come to Harappa. That's one of the very important sites. Now, Harappa is a large village even today. That is Harappa in the northern parts of Afghanistan. Sorry, Pakistan. Harappa happens to be a large village in the which again is part of Punjab province of Pakistan, not India. Now, River Ravi runs north of it. Okay, now which definitely has shifted. River Ravi is not flowing where it used to at some point in time, and that also gives credence to this theory that the rivers, that geography has seen a lot of rivers shifting their direction, um, the areas that they flowed in, they keep shifting left, they keep going north, they keep shifting west. So that is also which probably led to the end of Indus Valley civilization. But then coming to the how Harappa was, or rather the early part of the discovery of this, that is the old path, as the rivers have shifted. In the early days, that is around early 1900, there was a gentleman named Alexander Burns. Now, Alexander Burns, in fact, to 20 years before Alexander Cunningham. Okay, so please keep this in mind. 20 years before Sir Alexander Cunningham officially did those archaeological discoveries and excavations, there was a gentleman also named Alexander Burns, but he was the messenger of the King of England, and he had taken horses to Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who used to rule in the whole of Punjab, that is Punjab of Pakistan and Punjab of India. He was a very powerful ruler, very influential, very rich. Okay, so this gentleman Alexander Burns had taken horses from the King of England as a gift to Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and he mentions that he did come across this town called Harappa, which had 5 kilometers, which was rather 5 kilometers, around five and a half kilometers in circumference. So it definitely is quite a big settlement. Okay, and he didn't just stop there. He has also recorded that he did see coins, and he did find coins which in these ruins, which were Hindu coins and also Persian coins. Okay, Persian coins that would mean present day Iran. Okay, so and and it's not just that you know it was a cosmopolitan thing that Harappa civilization was. It's very interesting to know that even that during this time, during when the British were making and laying rail works in Pakistan, and especially around Multan, uh, in Multan, they took a lot of breaks because the significance, the importance of these sites had not really dawned on them, on the engineers. So they did take a lot of bricks because, as we have studied, the bricks were very strong. They were very advanced. These people had very advanced because in making bricks, because they used to make those burnt bricks. So it was considered to be a very solid brick, and it would be very convenient for them to use those bricks for laying the early railway lines when they were being done in the areas of Pakistan. And that is why a lot of evidence has also kind of disappeared because um, because the engineers, the laborers, they were naturally, they were not archaeologists. So a lot of disturbance, and that whole site was kind of turned upside down. So we don't have much of an idea about that. But as we have studied, that they were about grid planning, and grid planning. One also very interesting thing about most of these towns are when you talk about the grid plannings, it always runs in north-south directions. And wherever we have found in the Indus Valley civilization, the sites of grid planning, they all have run north-south direction and not that east-west direction. And one very important thing about the main towns is again that we have with that for some reason people were extremely keen to preserve their privacy and design their homes, always keeping this factor in mind that people should not be able to see the interiors of the house from outside. Now, whether it meant changing the direction of the doors so that the central courtyard could not be seen, or whether having fewer windows, but ultimately everything being done to ensure that the privacy is maintained. Now, why were they so finicky or so fanatical about this privacy part 5,000 years ago? We really don't know. We don't know whether they, right from the beginning, they were fearful of adversaries, and that's what they felt, or probably it was these places were being frequented by too many outsiders. They could be traders, they could be anyone, and that's what probably made them anxious and uncomfortable, and that's why they used to yearn for maintaining privacy. It could be anything. Now, one again very important very important thing that we often talk about is the presence of granary. Now, there often has been a lot of talk about the great granary at Harappa for storing the food grains. Now, again, historians are not very sure about it because in those years, in fact, even today, when you go to the villages, uh, we do not have, or in the parts of Pakistan or Gujarat or Rajasthan, uh, we Indians have not been very interested in storing food grains and locking them in our rooms. We have normally, and even now, we store them in earthen pots. So, whether they were granaries where the people used to save and keep and hoard, or whatever the food grains, we really can't be sure about it because even today in those same areas, the villagers, the people still use earthen pots, large earthen pots, to store the grains, which is prevalent even in many parts of India. Okay, rest in the next video. Thanks.